So here we are on to Cheltmental Thursday. I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards. Got just under 4,000 followers on Twitter. That is my name for following on there. If you aren't subscribing, click the subscribe link on YouTube, just because the video content will be kept separate from all analysis, just because I can quickly get this out, whereas it takes a lot longer to process that. So this will be the earlier prices, but with less detail, just initial thoughts. So 2 weeks out, we're looking at the Thursday. First race up, waste no time, we're looking at the Turners. And currently as we speak, it looks like Bob Ollinger is set to take on Galopin Des Champs. So this is a mighty clash. These are the two ultimate novices, and they could both be potentially Gold Cup horses next year. It surprised me that the Mullins camp are sticking to 2 mile 4 as we speak. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a last minute switch. But anyway, looking at form, the issue with both these two horses are they both have only had 2 runs. So they are fairly unexposed, which is part of the reason why I think that they are not going to take on Brave Man's game, because of the inexperience. They know he's battle hardened and stuff. He might not be as good as these two horses. However, they don't have the experience. Bob Ollinger got a lot of knocks on his debut, and then again for his jumping. His jumping is fine. There's not, you're just expecting spectacular, that every horse is going to jump like Sprinter Sacra, and they're novices as well. There's no issue. He gets from A to B. He's not making tremendous ground, and but he absolutely, when they came around the bend against Capitano, the jumping was, oh, okay, he might not be gaining, he's just staying level. But when he turned on the afterburners, there was absolutely no answer. And I think that'll be very similar in this case. I think if Bob can keep his jumping together, which I have no doubt he will around Cheltenham, I just think Bob Ollinger's got to turn a foot. And if there's good in the description, I think the race will suit him to a T. And coming on, I think the likes of Galopin Des Champs, La Home Press, I think you'll just be too quick for them. All he's got to do is make sure he keeps up. And then I'll be disappointed if come that home turn, it's not exactly the same as when he faced Brave Man's game. He draws alongside and then bang, the burner's gone and he's gone. I just think 2 mile 4 is his perfect trip. I think if they didn't have Honeysuckle, he would have gone over hurdles, and he would have been a right force to reckon with in the Champion Hurdle, because you need to stay there as well as to have a turn of foot. I just think he will do the job. That's not to say Galopin Des Champs can't win, because obviously he's an absolute machine as well. But I think he's going to be suited by the 2 mile 4 or the 3 mile. I think he wants a bit softer in the ground, or he wants a further trip. Like all these expletives that were thrown at Bob about his inexperience from average jumping was after Galopin Des Champs had his debut, because from people like Ruby Walsh, when the camp were buzzing because obviously their lad put not a foot wrong and he looked phenomenal over fencing. But second time out, when he was in the Group 1 for the Dublin Racing Festival, he wasn't the same sort of classy, this is so easy. He still won well. He demolished Master McShee, who'd obviously won a Group 1 before, but he's still not like, he's not bomb-proof, if it makes sense. He was a bit sticky at a few, and he was no different to Bob. And they're in the same boat. They're both 2 unexposed and novice jumpers. And it will come down to who's the better on the day. I think the 2 mile 4 suits Bob a lot better, which is why he would be my selection for the race. Currently, they're both 5 to 4. So right now, I wouldn't do anything until you know what's going to go. La Home Press looks a good horse, but as explained in the other video, you might be a good jumper, you might smash up quite a lot of the English horses, but I think when it comes to big day, I'll be disappointed if he's not at least £10 short of the other 2, unless the other 2's jumping fall apart, which I can't see happening personally. There's a few others in the back, but until you know the field, they're just not worth a discussion yet. Potemp's no-go currently, until you know more on the field. Ryanair Chase, look no further than Allaho. He has to run below form, and we're talking quite a lot below form. His last, I think 4 of his last 5 runs, 3 of his last 4 runs, he's ran to 175 plus. He is an absolute machine. He would be like the equivalent of a Shishkin of this division. But the reason horses come into the Ryanair is because normally they can't cut it in the 2 mile division. So they step up in trip to come here. They're normally grade 2 or grade 3 horses, or placed Group 1 horses. He is a Group 1 horse. And he's still winning Group 1s now. With the form last year, Fakadooder, he's in behind, has won since. You've got Tornado Flyer, won the King George. He's just an absolute win machine. And obviously even 50 lengths behind was that Fagner Destraval, who's won a Group 2 handicap since. So, I mean, you look at the rest of the field, Enigami's not going to run, Aplutar won't run, Chacun Pour Soi won't run, so you've got Chamblou. Chamblou's got an anomaly of a last time out full, but ran to a 172. Like that is a huge performance, and he looked phenomenal that day. But you look at the horses he was beating, the likes of Fusel Raffles, and that Nichols horse that just sulks all the time, that beat Altior a while back. Like, I mean, that horse is the price he is, and he has a big chance because of the fact that he's unexposed still. On his 172, like, he'd probably only have £4 or £5 to find Vallejo. So if he underperformed or if Chamblou improved, and he's going there fresh, which may well, but he's also going off there off a very hard fall. So I wouldn't write him off, but again, it's each to their own. Conflated, I'm not sure what's happening here. Like, he's gone very under the radar. And then he's won the Irish Gold Cup as a complete outsider. But you look at the rest of the field, like the likes of Manila Indo, and all of them, they were just running for a run to get a proper Group 1 practice in, ready for the Gold Cup. I think he was the only one who was there to actually win the race. Davey took it up far enough out and he won going away like a good horse. But if he was a proper horse and you've just won the Irish Gold Cup, you'd be going to the English Gold Cup without a shadow of a doubt. So the fact he's coming here, I know the owners sponsor the race, so they want to win their own race and stuff, but I mean, as I mentioned earlier, most horses come up from 2 miles to 2.5. They don't go from 3 miles back. So he could find himself very outpaced at an early stage. He has won over 2 mile 4, but that was like handicaps. We're not talking Group 1 pace. So if you get the likes of Allaho or Chamblou or whatever, they go off and they bolt off. Like, his jumping could come unstuck, but it may not. Eldorado Allen, I think he'll be very similar to last year with Shishkin. Plot around the back and finish in the places, pick up the pieces when the rest have tried to take on Allaho. So all in all, the stats all point towards Allaho. I could run through all of them, and everything points well to him. And for me, he has to underperform. And the only way he underperforms is if he got in a battle. But as Ruby Walsh has said, if a horse wants to take on Allaho, he'll continue to go his pace. If they're going faster than Allaho, they're probably going too fast. So he doesn't need to lead, but he's happy to just plod along. So, and Paul Townend, as long as he keeps that clock set in his head and he gets the breathers in at the times that he wants. I mean, I don't expect to be as impressive as last year, but I still expect him to get the job done. So, and he will only get short, so he could easily be 1 to 2 on the day when that field cuts up, and if Mullins has had a few winners throughout the week. Stayers Hurdle was a bit of a minefield. I'll put 2 in the same bracket, Classical Dream and Champ. I think these 2 are the horses that have the most potential and the classiest horses, and they're the big players of this race. Champ was mind-blowing on his return when he absolutely, he beat Time Hill. Obviously, he hadn't had a run, and Paisley Park finished a well-beaten 3rd. But then he came back, and as usual, he can't put 2 runs together. So his second run, he travelled really well all the way around, and then he just fell to pieces. Like, he just found nothing. It was like he was very tired. So, and it's one of 2 things. Henderson could have eased up on him and given him a bit of a cutback, ready to build him up again for this, which is potentially the case, or he just underperformed because he can't put 2 runs together. So he's a tough one to trust. He's a bit of an all-or-nothing horse. And the same goes for Classical Dream. Classical Dream had loads of injuries, came back from 18 months off, bolted up in the Punchtown Stayers Hurdle, beaten good horses there, the likes of Ronald Pump in behind. And but it is always a bit dubious at Punchtown because the rest have been racing all year round. But he backed it up again this year. He looked very good when beating Florent Porter. He stole a march. He messed the Florent Porter's race up by taking him on early. The issue for him is, will he be able to sort himself out where he's not taking on Florent Porter and just sit? I don't know whether he's going to have to think that he has to battle and he has to lead. And those 2 could end up cutting each other's throats battling. He's also an all-or-nothing horse. I thought he wants a 2 or 3 month break each time and then go there fresh. But for whatever reason, Mullins ran him again. But by the sounds of it, the backlash from that was he needed to almost like let him down, let him go out and have a burnout. And he travelled well, and then 2 out, he just blew up. It's like the reverse of what you'd have expected. I expected that to happen at Christmas, him to travel well, then blow up. But he didn't. And I think he had a harder race than Mullins expected him to have. So I think those 2 are the most potential in the race for me. But both of them come with huge risks attached. It's almost like a bet or place lay or both. Because they could win really well or they could not. I think the race will suit Champ a lot better because he's not worried about taking the lead or anything. Go across to Florent Porter, and he is a very solid horse, and he's come into favouritism from being solid. He's going to have had a nice 3 month break. He's been unlucky this year because he fell when he was looking like he was going to win. Then obviously taken on by Classical Dream, when if you give him the 8 lengths back at the start, he would have won that race. But it doesn't really matter. It just shows you how closely those 2 are matched, and he pulled out a career best from Classical Dream that day. In order for him to take the victory. So I think they're closely matched, and he will run his race, and if providing he gets a good ride and doesn't slit throats with Classical Dream, he'll probably be 4 to 1 the field, so he might be a fair enough price. Time Hill, yeah, very solid. He's coming fresh this time like Aintree, but I just have this feeling that there's going to be something better than him. And then Paisley Park, I can't have at all. If he wins, I'll clap him home. I think he was very lucky last time out, and he's probably going towards the end of his career. So currently it's Champion Classical Dream, but I wouldn't advise anyone backing into this market just yet, because most of them are going to stand their ground, and you'll probably get 4-1 the field, and there'll be horses that are say 4-1 now will be 8-1. So no rush. The Paddy Power Plate, I've got a few on the handicap list, but I'm not going to list them off until I know they're running. And then onto the Mares Novice Hurdle. So obviously with the news of Allegory Devassi out, Brandy Love's now favourite. I fancied her to reverse form, considering she'll be going around the correct way on the track this time round. She'll be going left-handed. So even if she jumps left, she's just going to jump into a railing. So I don't think that'll be the case. But also Mullins will straighten her out. So unless it's a niggling injury or something bigger, then I don't think that'll be a problem. They'll practice that and practice that. And she was also sent off the favourite for last year's Dublin Racing Festival bumper, ahead of the likes of Grangy and Party Central, and she just was inexperienced that day, and she finished third. But obviously she's learning, and so I don't begrudge her being favourite, and she was my selection. I took it 20-1. Dino Blue, 8s into 3s now. I've backed her as well for the McManus horse. And she looked brilliant on debut. Sectionals weren't anything special, but it's just one of those where you just thought, yeah, Willie Mullins, his great record on the race. He's won it every year, bar last year, when Henry de Bromhead obviously won it with Tell Me Something Girl in a year and none of his horses could lose. So Dino Blue, yeah, but my only issue is the fact that we haven't seen her for a while. Possibly a little bit of a niggle, but if she turns up, Willie will be running whether she's had 1 run or 3 runs. She may be inexperienced, but you just don't know with these mares, because a lot of them, the inexperienced, it won't be a massive hustle-bustle field, so she may well get away with it. If I was coming to this race today and I hadn't had a bet in it, I'd be looking a little bit bigger, like the likes of Grangy. Grangy was coming for a run before falling, but is fairly exposed. It reminds me of some of Willie's handicappers in the fact that he's raced against bigger rivals in Group 1 races, and finish 4th or 5th just to get practice in, rather than being like an unexposed horse like the others. But it wouldn't surprise me if she ran a big race. But I'd be disappointed if there aren't others better. But the one that does really interest me is Party Central, who hacked up in the handicap at Dublin Racing Festival. Clearly cannot be delivered any earlier than what Davy Russell did, because she just idles like mad. So if she's still on the bridle coming around the hill, as long as he delivers her at the right time, she's got to go close. And she's still 13-2 currently. A big pointer for that race is the handicap that she won the year before. Tell Me Something Girl came 3rd in, and she then won the Mares Novice. And the year before that, Concertista came 3rd in, and then she won the Mares Novice. So that race, the way it sets up, the hustle and bustle, everything about it is a brilliant pointer towards this race. You're normally looking further down the field, but there isn't a lot in behind her. The horse that came 2nd looks a handicapper. So I think Party Central is the one to take out of it. So for me, Brandy Love and Dino Blue are the ones I had backed previously, but I have added Party Central 2 at 13-2. And if I hadn't had a bet in the race, that would be the one that I'd be going for. And then finally, I'm not going to go into the Kim Muir again too heavily, because I've got a list of handicappers, but currently you're looking at like 50 horses and half of them won't run. And we're already at 13 minutes, so apologies. So, yep, that's my quick summary, or not so quick summary of Thursday. And that'll be a race that I'm looking forward to. Roll on the Allaho train.